cardinal sins of EMR.Go-Live training and support is there being a big time, as is stated here, a big time gap between training and go-live. We know this as adult learners. If there's too large a gap between the time that you actually have your training and the live use, you're going to lose much of that knowledge base. So we need to try to schedule your training sessions as close to your go-live date as possible. Of course, keeping in mind the size and training needs of your specific organization. The second cardinal sin, training everyone on everything. Mac alluded to it earlier. And limiting those things that obviously you want to train your end users on the modules that they will be using within the EMR software. However, if you throw everything at them, it's going to be problematic. Blanket training is ineffectual. Training users on information that they won't use, won't have access to, it's futile, it's a waste of time. And it can also confuse the user and stunt the learning curve on the software. So we want to be specific in the modules, specific to the users, and tailor the training so that you can target the users and their modes of use and their usage on the system, so that you're not overwhelming them with information that they don't need and that they can't process. Assuming the training ends after implementation. Training is ongoing just as your use and development of the HR software is going to be ongoing. So you have to plan to have continued training, plan refreshers, and continuing education programs to keep everybody up on the system. You're also going to have, obviously, incoming new hires, so that's going to have to be kept up to date and updated as you do upgrades and updates to the software as well. Assuming that training can be imparted remotely or effectively over WebEx or web conference media. It's been proven that face-to-face, hands-on EHR training has greater efficacy in terms of long-term retention. Obviously, we can do things like this web conference and give basic information and generalized information. But specific training, you need to do that in a classroom environment where you can customize and target specifically. Not insisting on formal training material or not using desktop recording software for the training sessions is another big issue. If you don't do this, you're gonna create a big gap in the training process. It's all training sessions should be recorded for continuity. Also, you must have a customized formal training material that's tailored specifically for your system and your workflows. And I can't say that enough, because if you don't have that customization strictly for you and that custom tailoring, then and I'll say this several times in the presentation, but every system is different, thereby every go-live is different, and every training for that go-live should be different. It has to be customized to your specific system and your specific build. Assuming the training provided by the EMR vendor will encompass all elements of your medical practice. This goes to the other bullet points here. The EMR vendor their training is generally going to be generalized, and it's going to be presented in a blanket manner unless you specifically require them to tailor it to your build. This will take time, so you may meet resistance from the EMR vendor, but you have to be insistent on this. It is imperative that they have this level of customization and build specific information in your training material. Again, go ahead. I'm sorry, Matt.
That is very key to making sure that you're getting your training customized to the way your system is built. We had our nurse analysts that actually built the system with the physicians on the EHR committee do the training themselves. So we didn't even bring in our EMR vendor to do the training. We thought it better to do ourselves instead. The vendors will usually tend to train as IT would use the system as far as how to build the system, as opposed to how to use the system as an end user. So that is critical to make sure that you are, for sure, customizing your training to match exactly what the way your system is built. And I also want to touch on the training that ends after implementation. It never does. We still offer now, 3 months later, we're still doing one-on-one training. We're doing on-the-spot training when physicians call the help desk. And one other thing that you might want to keep in mind, too, I know Russell mentioned turnover and new physicians, but if you have any local tenants that come in, make sure they're part of the process, that you change that process to get them trained on the system as well.
Thanks. The last one, not validating the credentials of the trainer that's provided by the EMR vendor and the medical specialty of your clinic. Matt touched on this earlier as well. Validating the credentials of the trainer, whether they be the EMR vendor or your E2E support training, is imperative as well. We have, unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that will present themselves as being credentialed trainers, but won't be specifically credentialed for a specific module or area, even by the vendor. So you have to demand, if you really want successful and effectual training, you have to demand at every level that your trainers are credentialed and experienced in the modules and in that specific software area of the vendor provided software.